Thanks for your company and welcome to a special forum as part of Responsible Gambling Awareness Week. Today we're joined by three big-name ex-footballers, self-confessed gamblers, and they're here to tell us their stories of how they've emerged from those dark days. We've got an ex-Swan, Daryn Cresswell, and a couple of old demons, David Schwartz and Daniel Ward. And David, I'll start with you. It's been 9 years since you've last had a bet. It's been a long 9 years for you though, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. But gone very quickly too. It's amazing what happens when you make good decisions and you're thinking clearly and you're not under pressure and you don't have the weight of debt collectors and people chasing money around you. So it's the last 5 years in particular have been probably the best 5 years of my life.
Do you ever feel as though you do overcome it to a point where you know it's not going to return?
Yeah, I think I'm just about there now. It's been over 3,000 days. So I gambled pretty much the majority of my life up until I gave up, and then it does take time to stop thinking about it. I think the last couple of years I've been almost guilt-free and having no thoughts of actually going back and gambling, but there are still things that do trigger memories and sounds and smells, and there are some things that go, oh, hang on, that was a good time, but then you actually got to think back and say, no, it wasn't. They were bad times. Yeah,
Daryn, your time away from gambling isn't as long, but again, you've got a similar story to tell, haven't you? In terms of you're at a stage now and a space now where it seems really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's been probably about 3 years. I think, obviously, when I first went inside, I went to jail for what happened with me. But certainly, I'm certainly in a better place, and being around good people obviously helps. And having that support is really important. And like moving to the Gold Coast has been terrific for me. It's got me out of Sydney where it all started, basically, and that being in that environment. And I've got a lot of people around me at the moment who are giving me great support, which makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. And Daniel, your story, it's been well played out publicly like the other two guys, just where you are at the moment.
Yeah, so my story, it's 4 years since I've had a punt next month. So like Schwartz, there's times where it can be difficult, but look, each day it gets easier and easier, and you think back, and Schwartz sort of said at the end of 9 years he's starting to have those guilt-free sort of days. I probably still struggle with that a little bit, because life goes on. You affect sort of people closest to you, your wife and kids, but no, it's going well.
Yeah, there's so many aspects we're going to discuss over the next period of time, but I suppose one of the things that's already come out in this short chat we've had to this point is just acknowledging the problem. Is that the key turning point for all of you? I
think it is. No one wants to admit they've got weaknesses or issues, and I think the three of us, and I haven't spoken to Cresswell or Daniel about this, but you're proud because you get to the highest level in your sport, and you think at times you're invincible, and so you don't think anything can go wrong. So it's really tough to sit there and look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, you've got issues here, you need help. And the great thing is with the footy community, when you do put your hand up and ask for help, it's amazing how many people come running to give you, as much help as they can give. I think a lot of fear is with people not wanting to put their hand up because they fear that they're going to get whacked over the head or it's going to be made public. And for me, that was the greatest thing. As soon as it went public, I had more eyes and I had a lot of pressure on, but I had a lot of people putting out their hands saying, yeah, we're here to help. And that was the most comforting thing about it, that there were so many people willing to put in. As long as you do, as long as you put in the hard yards, there'll be a lot of people wanting to go on along for the ride as well.
When was the absolute point of the lowest point that you can remember? When you look back on it, it was the day, and if you can reflect upon that weekend where you turned around $250,000 without really thinking about it. When you look back on it, was that the moment for you? And as you do answer that question, if you wouldn't mind just relaying that story for our watchers.
I was down probably 247,000. I thought 239, I think it was, and I had $250,000 limit, and that was Sunday morning. So I had 13,000 to play with, and ended the Sunday being 17,000 in front. But that's the whole thing with gambling. You're always after that next big win, and then the next Monday I'm looking at what horses are going to be going around. Tuesday on the internet, all that type of thing. So you're always looking to win big all the time. A lot of gamblers will tell you about their big wins, but not about their big losses. And I had a lot of both, obviously, but more losses than wins near the end. But the turning point for me was even before I went to court, like, I wasn't totally convinced that I had a problem. I thought I could just walk out of it. But when you get sentenced and you look across and you see your family and your wife and everyone, you know, really in tears and upset, that going away for 10 months made me do a lot of thinking and reflection on what had happened. And obviously not having that addiction or that, you know, obviously when you're in jail you can't bet. So obviously that sort of helped me in my recovery and taught me a lot about patience and life in general. And certainly, as you say, I needed to hit rock bottom to get myself back on my feet for sure. Yeah.
David, you've got a similar story, haven't you? I mean, you've got that big quaddie that was celebrated at the time of you actually doing it and other big wins. And I've read your book like a lot of people, and there was millions of dollars lost by you, by your estimations, when it's all said and done. Just if you can, as you talk here, just explain the highs that you get, but ultimately they actually become the biggest lows, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Money became irrelevant, whether it was $1 or 100,000. It all meant nothing, and it was to the point where it was kind of you against the system, and you would think, and I think, without speaking on behalf of the other two guys, that you almost believe that you can do things that normal people can't do, and that's beat the system, which you can't. It's not built that way, and you fuel that up with alcohol, which I used to love betting and having a drink with my mates. You become 10 foot and bulletproof. It's not about, it wasn't, in the end, it wasn't about winning or losing. It was about just putting a bet on and having that adrenaline go through the system. And I speak to a lot of people about punting now, and most 99% of the population can handle it. You know, you can probably go down and have a bet and it doesn't affect you. My mum can, most of my friends can. For those 1% that don't, we're the issue, and we've got to understand that it just doesn't work for us. We can't do that. So I can't go back in and ever bet again, because if I do, I know what will happen. As I said before, the help's super important. I had a partner at the time that stood by me that actually made me and helped me understand the value of money again. And it's really important, that fact that money becomes understandable. And as a footballer, you earn it easily, and you could lose it easily, but you always remembered that, you know, at the end of the day, there's probably another $9,000 a week jumping into your pay packet. So
I want to touch on the footy environment soon. Daniel, just your story too. There are lies told, aren't there, when you have a gambling addiction? It's just almost a natural outcome of what it is you're going through. And you obviously hurt people when you lie to those closest to you, don't you? Yeah,
massively, and probably like the other two. Some of the stories I came up with, I could write Hollywood scripts for. I really could. And you think about it now, and you just shake your head.
Give us an example, mate, of some of the stuff you did say to your nearest and dearest.
I couldn't. I couldn't actually give you one. Probably one is the fact that I countless amount of times would, and for the unaffected gambler, this would sound crazy, but the amount of times, if I had $20 in my wallet, I'd rather go and pump with that than have a feed, put petrol in my car. The amount of times I run out of fuel in the car, just because the gambler thinks I'd rather turn that 20 into 200 and full tank and a feed later, and you know, all that type of stuff. And it's something that when I think back on, I'm not very proud. But you know, the big thing with me, and I struggled with it for a long time, was that, you know, we did think, you know, we could beat the system, and you know, just that one win, I was over it. I had enough of gambling, but you'd created all this debt and drama, and I just wanted to get out of that, and that kept, you know, bringing you back. And for me, it was the fact of, like Schwartz said, putting your hand up and saying, you can't beat the system. You're not where you should be, but you know, you're going to end up a hell of a lot worse. People become gambling addicts through any course of life. The three of you are obviously footballers at the highest level. The football environment, be it at an AFL club or just the general, you know, mateship that was always at play within a footy club, did it contribute to what you guys went through? Did it actually facilitate it? Did it make it more difficult to overcome once it was apparent that you did have real problems?
It hits all the demographics. You know, we're males, a lot of us single, high money earners, a lot of spare time. The club environment would suggest that they're there for your beck and call. So if you happen to do something wrong, the club will fix it or cover it over. You got so many people just there to support you. You almost think, well, hang on, I am in a privileged position here. I'm going to take advantage of it. So, plus when I walked in the Melbourne Footy Club, and I think Wardy would have been the same. The culture was to gamble. You know, there was most social events were around gambling. A lot of our social activities were at the casino or you know, a pleasant Sunday afternoon. So every danger sign that you speak to, you know, people about and young kids, the footy club had around them. So it was up to the leadership group to really pull that in and identify. I don't think that was done too well at our club in particular.
You're at the sort of basically the peak of your football powers, weren't you, when you were at the height of your gambling problems? Do you look back on those and do you feel that your behaviour influenced others?
Yeah, maybe. I accept responsibility for all my actions, and I think everyone else should too. You know, if Wardy came in as a young man, you know, I never forced him to put his hand in his pocket and put a bet on. So I don't take responsibility for individuals, but for the culture itself, and maybe for the activities that we're running, I do accept some responsibility. But not for one moment do I sit here and feel any guilt that any other players went down that path
because of what you
directly
did.
For what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was a solitary punter. I don't think I ever gambled with Daniel. I didn't gamble with too many Melbourne players. I like to do it on my own. I like to do it, you know, in almost anonymity. And now, because punting has changed so much...
You can do it now in anonymously, can't you? But you couldn't in your days. I mean, you're all
we sat in a tab.
Gamblers, weren't you? A tab or a casino
or the racetrack.
It's actually easier now, isn't it, to gamble? Would you all agree with that? Not that you are, but...
When you start an account up, I was just betting in numbers. I wasn't handing over any cash, and it's easy to do that. All of a sudden, you've lost 20 grand, but you really haven't handed it. You go and hand 20 grand or TAB, you'll feel a lot worse than actually doing it over the phone, and it's just a number. So there was some real downfalls, I reckon, in today's society with gambling, with the accounts and line of credit you can't get.
Yeah, really familiar with your story, Daryn. I mean, you drew into a mortgage and were able to transfer money around, and obviously that's what people can do even today, isn't it? That facility's open to people if they choose to go down it. I mean, are you aware of current day footballers similarly dealing with problems like yourself?
Yeah, at this current stage, I'm aware of one, well known in a very strong and very successful club. And obviously, with withdrawing facilities, does happen through loans for your house that you've built up over time, and that's something I did. And it's easy to do. And like as Wardy said, like the amount of debts you incur, and you lose a big number of money one day, and you want to forget about it. But then obviously the phone calls and the people chasing you up for money, and it's a bad situation to be in. And you look at the rugby league player Ryan Tandy, the situation he got himself into, and now unfortunately he's not here with us. And they were the situations I actually went through, and I just couldn't mount with the pressure and the eyes that were on me at that stage in Tasmania. And it's hard to deal with, and obviously it's important you do have strong people and good people around you to help you get through that. Like when I went in, I didn't know what was going to be on the other side when I come back out, and some of the people who wrote me letters and actually come and visited me really sort of helped me a lot in my spirit to go forward and make something of myself. And through those people now, probably in the best position I've ever been in since I was playing at the Swans. So I'm really in a great place, and just really want to help any other people that get in the situations, because it's easy enough done. I mean, I was sitting in those meetings as a 26, 27-year-old AFL player, and when they used to come and talk about responsible gambling, etc., and said, I've never bet in my life. What they're talking about, they're kidding. All of a sudden, within 2 years, I was addicted. And it can happen to you that easily.
Daniel, the shame that comes, and you guys have already mentioned, embarrassment and the stigma attached to what you've all been through, and admirably you've all got through. But just, you wouldn't mind just delving into that shame that you touched on a moment ago, but just to, I suppose, fully tell the story as to the depths you go through. Just how much we couldn't even walk out the door sometimes to face the real world.
Yeah, it's not so much. I'm a big boy. The shame and guilt, you have to deal with that, and sooner or later as a man you need to stand up and cop that. But it's probably more the people closest to you as well that get affected. And I put these issues through no fault of her own on my wife, and she had to deal with a lot of this stuff even to this day. We're still trying to get ourselves out of the mess, and that sort of shame and guilt I feel for what I've forced upon others. And you mentioned before about lies that I told, and it's hard to have those conversations with close friends and family that I told that to, and even some of those relationships are still hard to mend now. So it's a long process, but my life 4 years down the track's a hell of a lot better than what it was 4 years ago, and I didn't see a way out then. And like Schwartz said, if you're doing the right things and you're putting your hand up, and generally people give you the time of day and realise you've made errors, and if you're willing to make up for them, that can help.
What was the key moment for each of you in realising you had a problem that needed to stop and needed to be dealt with in the most drastic of ways? I'll go with you, David. Just the moment you realised you had a really, really serious problem and there was no turning back.
Money runs out, number one, because when you've still got if you've still got the thing that can feed the addiction's going to continue. So going broke was number one. For me, my family came along, and Karen never saw me play football. We just had my first child, and it was his christening, and so for me, family took priority. I grew up without my old man. He died as a problem gambler as well. The last thing I wanted to do was leave my family with having the same influence that my dad did. So that was a pretty big driving force for me to make sure that the legacy that I leave for my kids wasn't the same as what my dad left. So that was a real driving factor. And it's doom and gloom when you're going through it, but the minute you make that decision to rehabilitate and get yourself on the straight and narrow, this enormous weight comes off, and then it's like your next challenge in life. It's right. You say, right, let's get into it, and away you go. And for those that are experiencing difficulties with gambling, you're that decision away from actually becoming the person that you want to be. Until you make that decision, though, you're just going to be like the person who's going to start the diet tomorrow.
Yeah.
If you don't get onto it, you're just going to prolong it, and by the time you're ready to make the decision, you're 30 or 40% worse off than where you could have been if you had made the decision earlier.
Yeah, I see you both nodding as David spoke about the money drying up being a trigger point. Now that you know what you know, and people listening to you speak today about this problem, what would be the trigger point now, in hindsight, for maybe you, Daryn? I mean, again, I know the money dried up to you to a point, that the court system got you, but when you look back on it, when should you have acted? And I ask that question just for people who are probably watching this thinking, I've got that problem, I've still got money to burn though. What would you say to that person?
Well, when you're waking up every morning, or before you go to bed every night, and you're on the internet looking to see what races are going to happen the next day, and the money did dry up for me, that's right, but the biggest mistake I made is I didn't come out early enough and obviously ask for help, and you can't do it by yourself. There's no way I could have done this by myself and be sitting here today.
Okay.
All right, so it's important obviously that you get ask for help and try and get the best support you can, but certainly it's hard to do that. I mean, I found it very difficult. Obviously, as Walter said, you've got a lot of pride, and you've been built up as an AFL player, and you don't like to give up. And I was looking for that next big win thing, and if I win 15, 20 grand, I'll be right, I'll give up then. But it's never going to happen. Yeah. So
you've all referred to partners and family as a mechanism that's been absolutely crucial to you emerging from where you were. Other support services too. I mean, there's a lot of them about. I'm assuming you all use them in some form.
Yeah, absolutely. And some work for some, and some don't work for others. So whether it's Gamblers Help or Anonymous, they've got wonderful services that are 24/7, because a lot of people we're watching today that don't have that support, that don't have that partner. The partner's gone. The family's not there. They're 24/7, so they can answer and almost a shoulder to lean on in the really hard time. So it took me 15 goes, so at least 15 goes of going through those networks, and then finally going through and putting our own system in place. But it was the lessons I learned through them in those 15 tries that I was able to bring to the table and couple in with what I was trying to do, and came to this solution. So there's some wonderful people out there, and wonderful government departments that are doing the right thing. The 100-day challenge, and when it's no longer fun, walk away. There are so many lessons that have been put through the media that we should be learning from, and no doubt that they are the warning signs and the distractions that we have to learn from to rehabilitate. thankfully, when I was punting, there was no internet, or the internet was so raw and so new that there was none of that. So I'm really I fear, kind of go back in time, that if the internet had been around, it would have been a lot different for me.
Well, it's not just internet, it's your smartphone, isn't it? You can walk out of this studio today and be tempted by it, can't you? And that's, when you look at what an 18-year-old, not just a footballer being an 18-year-old, but any 18-year-old is faced with when they go to the football, go to a public event, it's on a screen, isn't it, that you can bet on this game even. What do you make of that, Daryn?
It's thrown in your face, really, isn't it? It's everywhere, even in the ads in the AFL, rugby league, whatever it might be. And obviously, when I was betting, it wasn't like that. But obviously, you got mates out of side of footy as well who actually like having multis and will come up and ask you, how will you go this week? Will you win or will you lose? And I'll put $20 on for you, or back in my put $1,000 on for you, or whatever it might be. But yeah, it's and that's just the way I sort of got sucked into it. Being introduced to a well-known jockey through buying a car. That's how it easily happened for me. And all of a sudden, my first bet, $1,000, I win $12,000. I go, geez, how easy is this? So that's how easy it can happen.
Yeah, David, how much money did you estimate to have lost just purely through the punt?
Around about $4 million. Yeah. So pretty much everything that I earned throughout. I was pretty good at eating, so I kind of put a couple of all in and can't break it right down. But if I didn't gamble, and I've worked it back because I've had properties and so forth, I'd be worth between 15 and 25 million right now. So I think not having that money is a huge wake-up call.
Yeah. Dan, you had to put an estimate on it yourself? You don't have to, but you've obviously...
No, I'm happy to. It'd probably be around pure gambling, probably around the $1 million mark. And again, that's something to live with every day. Look, by no means, these days, 4 years down the track, we rent. We've got 2 kids, and we struggle. I work sort of 2 or 3 jobs, and but that's life for me. I can't change what I did. I need to deal with it, but sometimes that can get you down thinking about that and looking back, but can't change it.
And your situation played out publicly to a point, didn't it? Are you able to put a figure on the exact amount, roughly, or if you don't want to? I mean, don't. I'm just asking if you want to. And
I would say somewhere about $1.5 million, 1.5. I would have lost, I reckon.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything that I had. Rental properties, etc., that I was renting out. But I've been very lucky. The club I coach up there now in Queensland, Palm Beach, has been great for me. They've set me up with a business, and we've just built recently, so I'm starting to get myself back on my feet again, which is great.
It's key messaging in just taking control of your situation, David. If I can just ask you, I mean, you all talk now as though you're in control of it. What's been the key component to taking control of something that was so out of control?
Honesty for me. You to yourself, to the people around you. I remember when this all hit the fan, my partner at the time said, just tell me the truth. Tell me the truth. Don't leave anything out and it'll work out. And I remember I left something out because we...
Deliberately?
No. It was just something that I'd forgotten about. It was a debt. It was an $11,000 debt that I'd swept it under and forgotten about. And it came back, and that nearly ended our relationship because all she asked was to be honest. And I'd forgotten about this one thing and pleaded with her, and she gave me that one chance. And from that day on, I just said, right, this is it. Go back, remember, and be honest. Be honest with yourself and be honest with everyone else, and you'll be right. And from that day on, I don't think I've ever told Karen or Porky. And try not to tell Porkies at all. So you can't get yourself into trouble. You've got nothing to hide. You haven't got. You're not telling these people's stories and these people's stories and trying to get this whole thing, which is your life, to make sense. Tell the truth, and it goes a long way to you being as honest with yourself and other people.
Yeah. Daniel, just your take control moment?
Probably both the guys have mentioned it. Honesty is the first thing. Probably for people out there, Chris also just mentioned support. That, for me it was too strong to handle on my own, and probably all 3 of us have tried to get a grasp of it and control it, by ourselves, and obviously got a hold of all 3 of us. So if you're honest, admit you got a problem, but actually trust someone to speak to that can actually help you through the process and go, well, do I do the 100-day challenge, or do I contact Gamblers Help, or maybe put some things in place.
And what is the 100-day challenge?
So the 100-day challenge is through the Victorian Responsible Gambling Foundation, so people can get on there and basically put themselves through a 100-day challenge of being 100 days free of gambling. And there's stories, I was lucky enough to be involved in that. There's stories of 4 people that did that and their journey. And look, I've had several friends that I didn't actually realise had a problem with gambling that have contacted me and said that they're doing this. And I think it's been a great initiative. And that's something that you mentioned before about, just getting out your phone, and it's pretty easy, pretty accessible at the moment, that I think you need to involve other people because, they can help you point you in the right direction and provide that support for you, someone that you trust.
I commend Wardy. I went through the journey with Wardy a few years ago when he started to go down the path of non-gambling, and I know how hard it was for him because he had so much baggage to clean up. But thankfully, he saw through that and saw the bigger picture, and it's a good story.
Yeah, I'm a gambling addict for the rest of my life, so actually coming to that realisation was one of the first steps, I reckon, that, like Schwartz, I don't get involved in whether it's Tats Lotto or raffles or anything like that, footy tipping. So that's the way forward for me, and that's the way for the rest of my life. So yeah.
Yep. Just work backwards this way on the panel. Just advice, if I can, just to, I suppose, simplify. Not simplify, because it's too difficult to simplify, isn't it? But just one piece of advice that you've taken out of your journey for someone listening to you today to help them get through what they're getting through.
Ask for help. Speak to people that you trust, whether it be professionals or people close to you, because without the help of my family and friends and Schwartz and those type of people, when I went through that, I wouldn't have survived.
David?
It's less stressful to give up than what it is to continue punting, because the pressures associated with problem gambling are far greater than that of those who are trying to give up. It's amazing how clear things become when you don't have the pressures of what problem gambling is on you.
Yep. And Daryn?
Just slow down and think before you act. I mean, I just want to just see that I ain't going to do that, and all of a sudden, bang, and think about the consequences, the people you're going to hurt around you.
Yeah. Guys, I really appreciate your openness and honesty today, and really hope that people who do spend the time to watch what you've spoken about in this forum can get a message and take the advice that you've given, because you've all been really extremely honest and open here, and we do appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.